So we know how vital it is to have a good heart and a healthy heart, and making sure we eat right, and we got all the data to eat grains and whole wheat and not eat a lot of sugars, and watch and exercise. We got all the data we can know what to do with. We know how important the heart is, and yet I think sometimes we don't realize how important, vitally important, spiritually the heart is. So we need wisdom to know how to deal with this. And Proverbs, much of the book is attributed to Solomon, which is known. He's known for his wisdom. As throughout the Bible, you can see where he displayed wisdom. You know the story about the two women that came and they brought with them. Both of them had a baby, and one of them rolled on the baby, and the baby suffocated, died. And so now they're arguing about whose baby it is, and they bring the live baby to Solomon. Like, what do we do? She says it's hers. She says it's mine. I say it's mine. And they're going for it. And Solomon uses great wisdom in this case. And he says, okay. He says, since no one really wants to tell the truth, or I don't know what the truth is, let me apply wisdom. I got information. I know there's two women. I know what you said happened. I have a live baby here, but I got information. But I need something more than information. I need something more than just knowledge. I need some wisdom. I need to know how to use it. And so he says, I tell you what, let's do this. Let's split it up between the two. Let's cut the baby in half and split it between the two. He knew something. Wisdom. Only God could tell him what to do like that. Now, don't try that today. Don't try that. Say, hey, why don't we cut? No, don't do that. Don't do that. He said, cut the baby into him. And he knew, wisdom told him, that a real mother would never even if it meant letting her child go to someone else, would never allow her baby to die. And when the mother spoke up, the real mother said, no, give the baby to her. He says, now I can place great judgment. He said, now that baby belongs to you because I know you're the real mother. Wisdom. And so Solomon is very wise. And Solomon is David's son. He was a man of immense wealth. The Bible actually records him as being the wealthiest man that ever lived. And I thought about it. I said, I wanted to look into this and just to see, what was he really worth? And I know sometimes we want to know, is he really worth? Because we know Bill Gates is worth about $56 billion. That's about what he's worth. He's been worth, up there for a while now. Now, based on calculations of what he had then, meaning Solomon, the current price of gold, he had a lot of gold, and the King Solomon's annual salary would be about $760 million a year. Now, he reigned for about 40 years. So that would total about $30 billion. But that doesn't include assets such as property, land, horses, livestock. To date, if we were to calculate that same amount of money, if we were to amortize it out today and look and see what it would be equal to about $100 billion, far surpassed Bill Gates. I would say to this day, far as we know, he is the wealthiest man that ever lived. That's a lot of cash, y'all. $100 billion. This isn't the Bible speaking. These are historians and archaeologists who went in and done their research and tried to figure out what would that be. None today to top this. And I share this because in spite of all that wealth, what we gain most from Solomon is not about his money, it's his wisdom. Now I know what you're saying. I'd rather have the money and some of that cash. Give me some of that cash, Solomon. $100 billion. We could take, I like the wisdom, but man, $100 billion, I would like to get that from Solomon. But here's the deal. What I love about Proverbs, specifically about what we'll see in this chapter 4, is that wisdom has such value that far surpasses $100 billion. And I'm going to show you that in relation to everything else. I know that many of us as saints and believers, as leaders in the community, even on our job and in the church, we can see the idea of our knowledge. We see that our knowledge is highly touted, our experience, our skills, even the value of our financial portfolio. We can make that the principal thing that expresses and validates our leadership, even our self-worth. We can see that our educational goals and our experiences, we have a lot of experience. You go for a job interview, you look and you lay out all your experiences. Man, I know I'm good for this job. Man, nobody can top this kind of experience. I know nobody has a master's and this. Nobody has a PhD and all this. Nobody has worked in the industry and done different kinds of jobs and layers at every level than me. I got all of this experience. Nobody has tightened up their financial portfolio. Look at my savings. Look at my 401k. And we can sometimes times. I mean, across the board, not just the world, even the church, bank everything on our experience. I've been teaching and preaching the word for 20 years and 30 years, and I know what I know. And yet, I'm telling you that your knowledge and your skills and your experience and all the money that you can store up means nothing if you don't have wisdom. Because wisdom, what it does, it takes knowledge, and it takes the skills, and it takes experience, and it applies it in the right way at the right time to the right thing. That's what wisdom does. See, a lot of people got money. A lot of people, I know a lot of smart people, got a lot of intellect, but man, you would think they never went to school, because when it comes, what people like to call common sense is really what I like to call, what God calls wisdom. God never speaks of common sense. What he says is that if you want to know how to apply things in your life, if you want to take the knowledge that you've garnered, he said, you need some wisdom, because I can have a lot of knowledge, but I can misuse it, abuse it. I can have a lot of money, but misuse it and abuse it. But when I got wisdom, man, I applied it at the right time, and it grows. That's why Solomon's so important. That's why it's important to talk about his money, because you can't have that kind of money and be a fool. You can't have that kind of money and not apply wisdom to grow it to that kind of money, that kind of amount of money over the course of time of 40 years. In 40 years, he probably would have done something to squander and lose it. We've seen stories of it today. People made a lot of money, and they lost a lot of money because of lack of wisdom, not knowing how to apply it. And so, in chapter 4 lies, what we're going to talk about lies the value of wisdom. In other words, there are weights and measures by which we can realize significant, life-saving, life-altering value. We can garner some value from what wisdom is. And here's the value of wisdom. Matter of fact, before I get in the text that we're going to talk about is just one verse. And I got 3 points. But I want to, the value of wisdom. I want you to see, just give you some of the value of wisdom. Since we're talking about the value of something, listen, here's the one value of wisdom. You get to keep your life. Look at verse 4. He taught me also and said unto me, let thy heart retain my words, keep my commandments, and what does he say? And live. Let me tell you what wisdom will do. Wisdom allows you to keep living. It allows you to keep, when you apply wisdom, you get to live and see another day. You get to live through things and situations that people thought you should have died over, that you should have been checked out. But because of wisdom, you're able to come through it. You're able to make right decisions. You're able to not panic when you really should be panicking. But you say, God, listen, show me what to do. Tell me how to do it. And all of a sudden, God then tells you where to go, how to do it, how to deal with it. And you come out alive. And God says that wisdom will allow you to live. But let me tell you some other value of wisdom. It's a preservative. Let's read on down. It says, look at verse 6. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. It is a preservative. Listen, additives actually detract from the real thing. See, it's an oxymoron, right? An additive. What is an additive? Something that goes that you supposedly add to something. Particularly, we talk about food. There are a lot of additives that are added into food. But the truth of the matter, they add additives while they also take away other stuff, the real essence of what that product is. And the truth of it is that a preservative, listen, additives actually detract from the real, and therefore it takes away from the true shelf life of a thing. I know you say, well, salt, yeah, but when you put additives in, it really is not made to last long. Yeah, it'll last long with all that other stuff in it, but I'm talking about the real stuff. The real stuff don't really last because there's not a lot of the real stuff in it. And so these additives, it's a preservative. God has preserved you by his wisdom. God has put inside of you great things. And he said, I will preserve you by my wisdom so that you would have a reserved seat at the king's table for life. It is the wisdom of God who sent Jesus. You know how he preserved you? He sent Jesus. He sent Jesus so that you didn't have to die and go to hell, so that you get to sit at the king's table. He reserved a place at the table where only the king sit. Let me tell you, that's good news. Listen, have you ever had reservations for somewhere at a real nice place? I mean, a place that's exclusive, a place where, so have you ever gone to a place and a particular restaurant and you get to sit at the chef's table? See, that's a reservation that your knowledge couldn't get it for you. Your skills, you don't even pay no extra money to get at the chef's table. Listen, you go to the chef's table because it's been reserved just for you to sit at the chef's table. And God says that I've caused wisdom to be a preservative just for you. But not only that, it also holds your promotion. Look at verse 8. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee, and she shall bring thee to honor, and thou wilt embrace her. It is a promoter. That your promotion is not built on how much you know. It's not built on the skills you have. It's not built on how much you have, money you have. God says, here's how you get promoted: by wisdom. He says it's my wisdom that will cause you to have the promotion. In other words, it's when you work on your job and you begin to do things that seem counter to what the culture says do, but God gives you wisdom in how to operate. He tells you, don't argue back with the boss. Don't fight back. Don't take the pencil home. Don't take the paper clip home. That's not wisdom. He says, wisdom says, don't do that because that's not honest. Wisdom says, he tells you how to apply and how to do your job when people don't even want you to do your job well. When people try to sabotage you on your job and you say, God, show me how to do this thing that I may be able to be promoted. Some of y'all have been promoted in situations you never should have been promoted. Some of you have been promoted when you were the least qualified. You know why? Because it had nothing to do with your knowledge. And wisdom, promotion comes from God, the Bible says. And he says wisdom will cause you to do it. Learn how to operate in a position. So you don't know. You don't go in saying, God, I'm looking to be promoted, so let me try to do it. No, you go in and saying, God, use me that you may be glorified in this place, in my marriage, on my job, in my career. And when you go and you ask God for wisdom, he will give it to you. The Bible says if you ask it, he says he'll give it to you lavishly. He'll dump so much wisdom on you. Be like, wait a minute, God, let me get this one piece because it's so deep. And it gives you things that you could never imagine doing. Not only does it give you promotion, but also wisdom gives favor. There's the value of wisdom. It gives favor. Look at verse 9. She shall give to thee, to thy head, an ornament of grace, and a crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. That word grace, another word for favor. He shall give you favor. You will walk, in other words, you will walk under a wreath of grace. Now, when it says an ornament, that ornament translates a wreath. Here's the picture. It is, it's a picture of the Olympics. And it's a picture of when somebody would run a race and they would win and they would get first place. They would put a crown or a crown of wreaths on their head to symbolize that they were victorious, that they were the best, that they were the champion. And God says, you shall walk under, and listen, not only were they the champion, but during that reign of them being a champion for that whole year, they would be able to get anything they want, anything they asked for. It didn't matter what it was. They had everything. And so they would walk with that crown all throughout the year on their head. And they would walk with this crown because they were the champion in the Olympics and there was nothing they could do. All doors were open for them. Nobody was closed to them. Everything they ever needed was given. God says that if you walk in wisdom, he said he'll cause you to walk under a crown and an ornament of grace and favor. That where you walk in, where they should have told you no, the answer is yes. When things should have happened to you, God stopped it in its tracks and you were able to keep walking on through. No barrier could come against you, no fence, no obstacle, no enemy. Nobody could defeat you. He says you get to walk in an ornament of grace, favor. And then he says you're a crown. That second part says, and a crown of beauty. It says that you will be so attractive. Here's what it's saying. You'll be so attractive that people will be drawn to you because you bear witness of the majesty and the glory of God, which is the glory of God is the beauty of God. The Bible says we worship in the beauty of holiness. That when God enters the room, that his glory is so beautiful and it's so heavy. If you've ever experienced that kind of heaviness, that kind of glory, it's so humbling and yet so beautiful when God comes and you know it's God. Listen, let me tell you what it is. It's when all of man's abilities are taken away and all of what you see is not man, it's not anything physical, but you only see is God. That's when it's beautiful. That's when you walk around and you're a person and you got this crown and ornament, you got favor, but not just favor, you got the glory of God resident, and people don't see you, they see God. That's when people's lives get changed. That's when people get saved. That's when people get healed miraculously, because it's not you, it's the glory of God. Man, I need some wisdom, y'all. We need wisdom. You want to have that kind of impact on people's lives? We need wisdom. It is the quintessential reflection of who Christ is in us. It is no fluff. It's no additives. It's the real thing. And then, lastly, Wisdom, the value of wisdom, it allows you to have straight steps. It allows you to have straight steps, and you will not stumble.